Let's be honest, we are all a little obsessed with the end of the world, right? From these epic TV shows to huge blockbuster movies, we've spent countless hours watching survivors navigate a world overrun by the undead. But today, we're going to focus on the single most important decision they ever make: where to hide. And this really is the core question. We see these incredible stories, these nail-biting escapes. But what if the very things that make for such good drama are the exact things that would get you killed in a real-world scenario? And there it is. That's the whole premise for this explainer. You can forget about the fancy weapons or the heroic last stands for a minute, because the most critical life or death decision you'll make is your choice of shelter. If you get this wrong, well, nothing else is going to matter.
So first up, we've got to talk about the great shelter myth. We're about to tear down some of the biggest lies the movies have sold us about what's safe. And it all starts with the vibe of the apocalypse itself.
You know that iconic opening scene, right? The lone survivor wandering through a completely silent, empty city? It's amazing filmmaking, for sure, but it is a total fantasy. The reality of a major city collapsing wouldn't be silence. It would be a deafening, nonstop symphony of chaos. Just think about it. Car alarms blaring, gunfire, screaming. And the streets? They'd be impassable graveyards of abandoned cars. Not so quiet. So that brings us to our first few levels. And honestly, we should just call them what they are: death traps. These aren't shelters. They're the places from fiction that sound like a good idea, but will absolutely get you killed. All right, first up is level 1. This is the classic, the go-to spot for almost every survivor we see on screen. It's the first place everyone thinks of. And you know what? That's exactly why it's the worst. Yep, the shopping mall, or the supermarket. I mean, it's the place with all the food and all the supplies. Seems like the perfect fortress, doesn't it? Well, it's not. And this is where the logic just completely falls apart. The fantasy is that our heroes just wander in weeks later and find these beautifully stocked shelves. But the reality? It would be pure panic. The second a crisis hits, those stores would be picked clean within hours. It wouldn't be a quiet pantry. It would be a violent, bloody battleground for the last can of beans. Okay, moving on to level 2. This is another classic movie trope, and it's born from that desperate, desperate hope that someone somewhere is coming to save you. You've seen this a million times. The survivors scramble to the top of a skyscraper or a big hill, and they let a giant signal fire, hoping for rescue. It's this big, dramatic, hopeful moment. It's also incredibly foolish. And that just nails it, doesn't it? A signal fire doesn't just alert your potential friends, it alerts everyone. Every hostile survivor, every hungry zombie from miles around. They now know exactly where you are. You've just made yourself the center of attention in a world where attention gets you killed. And that brings us to level 3. Now this might just be the most dangerous myth of all, because it preys on our deepest desire in a crisis: the need for someone to restore order. The concept is called the false hope fortress. You hear a scratchy radio broadcast promising a military-run sanctuary, a safe zone, maybe even a cure. It sounds way too good to be true because, well, it always is. In a world with no rules, a group with all the power and all the guns isn't rescuing you, they are caging you. So the crucial thing to remember is that the warning signs are always there. First, it's a one-way message. You can listen, but you can't ask questions. Red flag. Second, they tell you to go somewhere isolated, cutting you off from everyone else. And third, the promise is it's too perfect. In the apocalypse, easy solutions are almost always a trap. So let's just take a breath and recap. The supermarket, the rooftop signal fire, the promised military base, they are all fundamentally death traps. They are magnets for conflict, they make you a giant target, or they lure you straight into a cage. Which, of course, leads us to the big question. If everything we've been shown on screen is wrong, then what does a genuinely good shelter even look like? Let's move up the levels and find out. This brings us to levels 4 and 5, defensible forts. Now we're shifting our thinking, moving away from short-term hiding and towards long-term, actual strategy. A viable mid-tier shelter is built on 3 core principles. First, defensibility. You want things like limited entrances and clear lines of sight. Second, sustainability. You absolutely need access to renewable resources, like a well for fresh water or land you can actually farm. And finally, and this might be the most important one, a low profile. The best shelter is one nobody else even knows exists. It's got to be remote, hidden, and completely uninteresting to anyone who might just happen to pass by.
But look, even a defensible fort is really just about surviving day to day. Levels 6 and 7 are about something more. These are the true sanctuaries, the kinds of locations that offer a chance not just to survive, but to actually start rebuilding society on a small scale.
And you can see the shift right here. A true sanctuary is built on 3 massive pillars. It has to be self-sufficient, producing its own food and power. It needs a real system of governance, actual laws and leadership to keep order. And finally, it has to be able to project security. That means it can not only defend its own walls, but also control the area around them. This is the real endgame. But here's the final, terrifying twist. Even if you found or built the perfect level 7 sanctuary with these impenetrable walls and endless supplies, there is one threat that will always get inside. Because the ultimate threat, it was never the zombies to begin with. And that is maybe the most chilling lesson in this entire genre. A virus can end the world, sure, but when society collapses and all the rules just disappear, the true monster is revealed. The threat shifts from what's outside the walls to who is standing right next to you.
Because it was never really about the zombies, was it? It was always about what happens when that thin layer of civilization just gets peeled away. The fear of the monster outside just becomes the backdrop for the real horror, surviving other people.
So I'll leave you with this thought. Sure, walls can keep the monsters out, but in a world without rules, how do you survive the people you're locked inside with? Who can you really trust?